Hi, everybody. Welcome to Business Lunatics. Here we have the weekly show where four fearless loonies pull back the curtain on the wild, the wonderful, and sometimes the downright ridiculous world of entrepreneurship. We go through no fluff, no BS. It's just business madness. And today's topic is going to be about sales cycles, pipeline challenges, and what do we do to change all of that in the environment that we're currently in. And it is October 2025. I think it's important to mention that because I think everybody knows what's going on around the world as well as within the United States based on that. On that note, Steve, why don't you take it away?
It's I thought the summer was slow and I
Mhm.
really couldn't figure out why. And we actually talked about this one of the other episodes, so I won't dwell on this part of it. But I started like doing what I always do, asking questions and asking people like, how's it going for you? I'm not seeing a lot of, people that they're excited, they want to do it, but we'll get to it. Or they're ghosting me, which is really strange. I had one guy I sent an email to, and I basically said, "Are you just ghosting me, or do you not like me anymore?" And he actually wrote back, "LOL, no, it's not you. I've got this going on and this going on." But I think there's a lot of disruptive things going on in the industry in the world, from AI through to the government shutdown to tariffs and Palestine and Israel and war, and I can go on forever. But there's a lot of change happening, and when that happens, a lot of uncertainty. A lot of companies really kind of just go, let's just sit back and see what's going on before we go jumping in. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. That's when the tough should get going. That's when you got to continue your marketing, continue filling your pipeline, because we're all getting hit from 80 million directions with 80 billion bits of data and information that we're supposed to process and handle and answer emails and social media and Slack and WhatsApp, and I can go on forever.
I
I
mean, you bring up a
make it
good
hard.
point, and I've run into this so many times with with clients and prospects alike. It's like things that the economy or whatever the situation isn't quite the warm and fuzzy feeling that everybody wants.
Right.
And instead of going through that and pushing through, getting ahead of your competition who's likely going to stop, these companies end up pulling back. And it's like, that's the wrong thing to do at the wrong time. Get out there, get in front, move the needle.
You got to
Um,
pivot, innovate.
you
Well,
got to
it's
It's
pivot.
it,
time.
it's
Exactly.
right. It's a time to really accelerate if you really want to take over the market and really leave your competition behind. You look at, back in the Depression. I mean, I brought this up before. Walmart, they've doubled down and they expanded and they've just exploded. And you look at some of the companies that do that, that actually put the gas pedal down, kick up their marketing, kick up their sales efforts, they actually gain market share during a
Yeah.
downturn and during an uncertainty where everybody else has a tendency to play it safe. And you know what? We're going to hold back. We're not going to hire anybody. We're going to do et cetera, et cetera. And the next thing they look up from having their head down and trying to ignore what's going on, and all of a sudden they find out, wait, how did these guys get ahead and take off so much, got so much market shares because they hit the gas pedal.
Okay, so here we go. That's being very generic. Let's get real. What are some specifics?
Some
What are
specifics. I'll give you a great one. Today, I work with my marketing person on how I can get more clients at a lower price point. So what I do, the services I provide, they're low mid level type services. They're in the thousands of dollars. Okay. And a smaller, entrepreneurial company maybe can't afford that kind of money, especially not in today's quote unquote economy. So I said to Katie, I'll name her. So I said to Katie, okay, what are we going to do this different? I've been thinking about starting like, a community, not like a round table, but an actual community for AI. And what I want to do is I would love to be able to help people, but I don't want to give away the store. I want them, to get interested. I want them to share with me. I'll share with them. I'll help them get unstuck people in the community, if it's in school or circle or whatever I do it in, they can go ahead and help each other out. And it's $20 to get in per month. Very affordable. They'll learn a lot, but it's something that if I get 50, 75, 100 people to join, I can make a little bit of money at while the times are tough and not, and
Now you're dealing
I'm
with,
hunting the
right.
bigger fish.
Now you're dealing with user-generated content where everybody's helping each other out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and everybody will be. It'll be a community that everybody will.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about doing this for a while. I tried years ago with something called the Coach's Corner, and it just I don't think I was mentally really ready to deliver it yet. But this is a great time. People want to know this is a scary AI is here. How do we implement it? What do we do? We're all like frozen. Oh my God, I don't understand it. You know what? I've been here 25 years. I hate change. Forget it. I'm not touching it. Not the right idea, not the way to go because it's not going anywhere. So I
Rochelle, you
just
had some
did it this
ideas.
morning.
Oh yeah. Um, yeah, I think we need to be very proactive in different areas. So for example, for me, I'm really big on relationship building. Okay? Uh, what does it take to, and then, go through some of the people that I know. And it's time, if possible, can I see them in person? It's amazing what happens over a tuna fish sandwich, okay?
Mhm.
If they're in the same city. If they're not, that's a different ballgame. But like, where are the relationships that can make a difference to me? And what are the relationships that I can make a difference for them? So let's, number one is be very specific. Go through who you know right now. So who are your relationships? And the other thing that can make a big difference are your JV partners? Who are your joint venture partners? Can you align with somebody? And it's the idea of 1 plus 1 isn't 2, it's not 3, it's 11. You can pull each other
Yeah.
into an arena that you can't go to. So, who is servicing your businesses right now from a total different perspective? Total different perspective. And they can give you the intro because they already are servicing them. You don't have a trust factor. They've given you the credibility. So again, is there somebody that you can partner with that you can do a revenue share? There's a lot that you can do under that umbrella. You can do a finder's fee. So, I mean, many years ago, I was in a different industry. I was in travel. I happened to have been an amazing travel agent. So, the person that gave me so much business was my hairdresser because he did the hair of the top executives in the women, in the city. You would
Yeah.
think that,
I love it. I love
Yeah,
I
it.
it's
can't
great.
even tell you how much business this man gave me. I would
It's
go
so
in to get
true.
my hair cut, and I said, "Who was in the chair 10 minutes before me?" And they said, the editor of Glamour. I said, "Are you calling her right now while I'm sitting here?" And he says, "I guess I am." So again, who are the relationships with people? And again, these are not people you would not think your biggest lead generator is the hairdresser, but these are people that service your clients from a different perspective, and they're very open. So we got to think about that. It's not, and people are like, they've done with AI and not AI. There's so much work on the internet that you're losing. And then the last thing I want to give you is who can you send something to? So for example, we don't get fun mail anymore. We don't even get mail anymore because everything's in your inbox. So if you can, excuse me, if you can find a funny card, and I send it out in a color envelope,
Yeah.
it's blue, green, red, something, and I send it to them and they crack up. So recently I sent this card of like Lucy, I love Lucy, with her like sticking out her tongue, and I put it in an envelope and I said, "This is what my day looks like. Hopefully yours
Yeah.
is a lot better." And I put it in a funny in like a colored envelope, and they called me up and go, "Rochelle, you made my day." We've got to make
Yep.
emotional impact and recognize who we are. And I mean, come on, it's a stamp, but
The
we
problem is the amount of people you can reach, and I'm not discounting what you're saying because I'm all about what you're
you
saying.
don't
I
need you
buy gifts for my clients every holiday season, like like Smithy ironware, like good stuff. I get it, but the problem is that we're getting inundated so much information that just for myself alone, I find it hard. I look up at 6:30. I'm like 6:30. with
Yeah,
hey,
but
get
there's some
started.
tools, but there's some tools that you can leverage that will automate some of that stuff and
Yeah.
send. For example, I have a mechanism so that when I have a guest on a podcast that gives me their mailing address, I happen to be able to send them a card. I don't have it in front of me, but
Send
and then
out cards or one of those.
no, it's actually the product is called Mailbox Power. And it gives me the ability to send also a personalized gift because, see, a lot of people have a tendency to give out swag. And swag is really all about who? It's about you. Nobody cares. But if you turn around and put their name on it, see, you put their name on that swag, now it becomes their coffee cup. Okay. So your logo on it, it's a fact. I mean, it's an emotional connection. Your logo, nobody cares. It's a coffee cup, whatever. It's got my name on it. Now I'm going to say, don't touch my coffee cup because it's my coffee cup. So emotionally, I get tied into it. The other thing that you said, Rochelle, that I want to accelerate on is, yeah, old school going into the mail cuts through the noise. And the reality is, we're so caught up in text messaging, uh, you know, social media messaging, all that stuff. We forget that old school is still one of the best marketing mechanisms out there, and that's direct mail. And, if you look at the laws says you can't spam anybody via email, right? Right?
Right.
Yes? No?
Right. Well,
Okay.
you have to
But
get
you
them the right to
can, but
unsubscribe.
you can spam the mailbox. Think about that. Okay. You can't spam inbox, but you can spam the mailbox. And who makes money on spamming the mailbox?
The
Let's think
government.
about that a long time. United States Postal
Of
Service. Okay.
course.
So if you think about that, if you really want to do and build up your pipeline for sales, you need to go back to some old school ways, which is some direct marketing campaigns. And then more importantly, you need to flip that instead of being generic, it needs to be personalized. And
Very
there are
personal.
tools. So you need to be able to say, okay, in your campaign, and I did this with the company a couple of years ago, where we mailed to the state of Arizona various different departments. And what we did is we highlighted the problems that department was dealing with, and we presented how we helped solve that. But the beginning of the thing was, hey, Melih, hey, Rochelle, hey, Steve, we know that you're dealing with these kind of a problems, and here's how we can help resolve and make you look good at what you do. And that was the other messaging that we used. And that's how I filled up the pipeline, because then people would reach out and says, "Hey, we got this thing in the mail. Tell us a little bit more." And that was the whole objective. And that's how I filled up a pipeline because I resonated with them. I cut through the noise. I went through direct mail and I got people to contact me and I closed sales.
I use centers of influence, COIs, I call them, and I think
Yeah,
that's
always.
close to what you said, Rochelle. But I try and surround myself with 10 to 15 true people that I can resonate and work with that are either servicing my clients or know of clients that my size and ICP, ideal client profile, that I'm looking for. And I'll have lunch with them. We'll go out for dinner, we'll go out for drinks. And I may not see them for 3 or 4 months, but the next time someone says, "Hey, do you know a business coach or an AI guy?" They're going to go, "Yeah, my buddy Steve," because I'm keeping contact. I even do it on Zoom where I'll schedule a meeting with somebody
Yes,
30 days out so we can reconnect again.
kick in. You've been a little quiet today.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
I'm listening, but there's a theme in everything you guys have been talking about, Rochelle, and you kind of brought that up, especially when you're talking about joint ventures and partnerships and so on and so forth. Freddie, you're talking about targeting, right? Your traditional outreach program. Excuse me. Um, the thing that is becoming more and more apparent along the way is the fact that we have to do what's called account-based marketing. And especially if you're a business and this idea in today's world with all this noise that's out there, this idea that you're going to be able to just, broadcast your information to the world and expect them to find you, unfortunately, is getting harder and harder and harder. And you have to find unique ways. Rochelle, I love your little idea. Go, go old school, find a card, do something write something very simple, put it in the postcard, post in it to the mail, and just send it out. Um, you have to find new ways of doing things. And account-based marketing says you need to tackle, first of all, you need to identify who are you going to target. And I'm not suggesting you need to target 100 companies or 100 individuals. Find 5, believe me. That in itself is going to keep you busy. Find the 5 that you're looking for. Find out who do you know that knows them, right? Start there. And that kind of goes along the lines of what you were saying, Rochelle, in terms of finding the partners, finding the joint ventures. How do you do profit sharing or revenue sharing in that type of scenario? And then work your way through that process to target that individual. And that might even include what Rochelle said. Send that guy a postcard, because I
I got a
guarantee you
better
when it lands on his desk at the office, assuming that he's actually in an office nowadays, it's going to be a different story for him. He's going to take notice.
Yep. And there's even some deep research you could do with AI. Claude has it, Perplexity has it with labs and deep research, that you can find out a lot of really good key information about that company, so you can understand how to better well serve them, how to understand their needs better.
Here's the other thing that I think that we don't do well at. There's so much we speak generically about what we do, and that's the biggest no-no. Here's what I suggest: whenever you speak about your business, are you storytelling or boring telling? If you tell me an amazing story, I want to know not the day-to-day stuff. I couldn't care less about that. I want to know, how did you pull a rabbit out of a hat? Now you're going to tell me some phenomenal story that I will remember, and then that is where we create an emotional link to somebody. You tell me that story, and I'll say, "Whoa!" If something comes up around that arena, I may not remember exactly what you said, but I'll remember that you personally will connect with me. So I mean, I can't tell you how many business stories I've rewritten because they're all very generic. And I say, what do I care that I want to know something. How did you really save the day? Now, when you tell me how you may only save the day twice a year, but it doesn't matter because I think that if you can do that, then my day to day average stuff is easy breezy for you. And we don't toot our horns in that regret. We just don't, and it's a huge, huge, huge issue. And you got to tell me what was amazing. And the last but not least, you really want to make an impact. But a lot of people do a lot of ads, and you can go through an ad campaign, and
Oh,
I mean that's like you're opening up a faucet and it's unlimited funds.
yeah.
But here's what's
It's a
interesting.
black hole.
But you might get, you're trying to get in touch with, I don't know, a CEO in a mid-sized company or whatever. Here's where sales, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is amazing. You can get the name, etc., of this person. Now, create a dynamic package and FedEx it to them. I don't know about you, but I don't know of a person that does not open a
Yeah,
FedEx.
it's going back to Wall Street.
Yeah.
Remember Gecko and Charlie Sheen sitting outside of the door there. So he's got all the information and he waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and he finally got the deal. But
Yep.
the
Yeah.
other thing that,
FedEx
we could,
somebody, they'll open it up, but what's in that envelope has to be of value.
Of
right,
course. Yeah. Exactly.
Now, if you do that, the chances of getting a return call is in your favor.
sure. And the other thing though that I think that people don't leverage, and we're going back to the pipeline here a bit, is we don't leverage our existing customer base effectively. And I say that because that was what propelled my sales growth in the tech world. My customers were my sales team.
Yep.
And I would spend time with them. And I've shared this on my podcast, the Business Superfans of Service Providers Edge. And I've talked about the fact that, one of my IT guys at a mold shop back in Illinois, when he was going through the divorce, I came in for a meeting, a sales meeting, to talk about our strategies. I could tell visually he was distraught. So I asked Bob, it was his name. He says, what's going on? He says, my wife wants a divorce and stuff. Forget the business. We went out to the restaurant and then buying lunch and drank a few beers with him. And I had him pour out his heart to a friend. And he became one of my biggest advocates, where I call them super fans, and referred me to other businesses because those people know other people in that market space. So if you go, for example, I was selling in a tool and die mold making group. They have an association. Those people talk.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you build the good relationships with those customers, and their buddy says, "Hey, I've got this particular problem," they're going to go, "Hey, I know a guy. You got to call my friend Steve. He'll be able to take care of her. You got to talk to my friend Rochelle or my friend Melih," and it's going to be my friend. It's not going to be the sales guy. It's going to be, you got to talk to my friend. And that collapses that whole sales cycle, because now it's not a referral, it's an introduction. And then introductions are way more powerful than referrals. You look at the wealthy people, it's all introductions. Rockefeller
Right.
was all the people he knew, and he created introductions for everybody. So I think we need to look back in our backyard and look at how can we leverage the backyard to help us find new opportunities. I
Good
just
idea.
mentioned earlier, I got a guy that I dealt with for 10 years ago. I worked with him for 5, and then he got involved with some big marketing company, media stuff, and so he switched over some of the work to them. 2 days ago, he called me up, and he's in a bind because they've left him high and dry, and things have changed in that company. He came back to me 5 years later. And
That's great.
so it's all about really building, and that's why I call it, building super fans out of those customers. They like and trust you. And the thing about super fans, I'm going to really emphasize this, is they stick with you through thick and thin.
Yep.
You're going down the path, which I find interesting in terms of telling our viewership, for example, giving them some ideas on how to solve the problem of their sales pipeline and their sales cycle. I'm going to bring up an interesting one that we've been using for one of our clients, and I think it's technology based, but it seems to be working, or at least for this particular industry, it seems to be working. I don't know if you guys ever know about ZoomInfo. Way back when they were out
Mhm.
there really for downloading um,
List.
mail
Lists.
addresses, right?
Right.
So that and lists, and that you could do mailings and direct mails and so on and so forth. Well, of course, they've grown quite a bit, and they have an interesting database now. It's called the a buyer's intent. They're identifying based on a variety of metrics whether or not a particular individual or a company has an intent to buy XYZ. So, for example, in ZoomInfo, you can go into the intent area and you type in a topic. Like in my case, we type in marketing, right? Because I'm looking for companies or individuals that have an intent for marketing services, right? With our other client, we're looking for the intent is really wrapped around warehouse labor management or HR or temp hire, that type of thing. And we're able to identify businesses and individuals that have an intent for that. You download that list, and now which includes name, address, email, phone numbers, whatever you need. It has all the information you need, not only to do an email, but you can do traditional. You have a phone number, you can call them, right? Or going down
Really old
Rochelle's route.
school.
You could be
You're right.
intentional.
Yeah, exactly. Or going Rochelle's route, you have their name and their company address and send them a postcard or send them a FedEx package, right? So that's, I think, when we think about the problem that, I've been hearing quite a bit in the last week from a lot of people, regarding their sales cycle and their performance in terms of lead generation. I think we need to take a look at what's out there, right? Freddy's option of creating super fans out of your customers is great. I think ZoomInfo seems to be working from what I can tell. And it's, it's a numbers game, of course, but that's one route. I think we can all come up with ways for people to solve their problem, which includes thinking outside of the box, which Rochelle mentioned earlier.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, old school
Any other
still works.
ideas?
Yeah, no, the cards, postcards. I mean, there's beauty about sending out postcards. I've done that many times. Is you got at least 20 seconds that person's going to take a look at it before they do something with it. And usually they maybe throw it away, but you got in front of them for about 20 seconds. And that's a big differentiator versus an email that's a cold email that they don't recognize the subject, they don't know who you are. It's an instant delete.
I do something else as well. So I have a few centers of influence that happen to run some networking groups. And whenever they introduce me to somebody, if they're local to me, we'll actually go to lunch. He'll say, come on, I want, Josh, I want you to meet Steve. Let's go have, we'll go to Capitol Grill and we'll have lunch or whatever. It's such a better introduction than we sending an email back and forth, jumping onto Zoom, and then finally, yeah, let's schedule a lunch together. But having that center of influence as like the conduit to the conversation because he knows both of you really seems to help a lot in those people accepting you or trusting you. It's like a given. You can trust this person because I'm sitting here, kind of a thing,
Last but not least,
Well,
Plus, you get human
yeah.
interaction, which is
Right.
huge.
I used
All right,
to
let's finish up with Rochelle.
do roundtables of people. Like I had a client that's a designer. He designs hotels. So I did a round table of somebody that would be an owner's rep that opens up hotels. I did it with somebody that I invited somebody that worked at Warner Brothers that had what was the brand music. In short, I had all these different power partners that got together. There was about 9 that I invited out for an amazing breakfast. Like this was just before COVID. They're still thinking about it. When you can
Yeah.
create synergy amongst people and you say, I'd love to introduce you to, and create either a lunch for them or a breakfast, you become you're not their vendor anymore. They really see you as a partner in their business, shoulder to shoulder. So again, I'm gonna start off, Melih. What's one of the conclusions for today? I'm gonna say, put your thinking cap on, and how can you deepen your key relationships? Because the key relationship can give you more business than any marketing campaign.
Freddy, takeaway.
Look back at your existing customers and look at how you can leverage that resource because that's gold sitting right there because they may also need additional services, and had you not reached out, you'd never know about it.
That's for sure. Steve.
I'm going to say go back to your centers of influence and rekindle. There's a lot of people out there that you haven't talked to in a while, and why not? I mean, yeah, I'm guilty of it. I'm sure we all are. But I'm going to go back to you really need to build a good set of people that work in the same type of industry that can relate and can refer business to you, and then you can refer back to them as well. You got to reciprocate.
So I don't know if you guys if I ever mentioned this to you guys, but during our meetings, I always take little notes and highlights of what everybody talks about. And so I came up with a takeaway as we were all talking that kind of mashes it all together, so to speak, at least some of the highlights, which is basically tell better stories, build real partnerships, and using Freddie's comment earlier, ask for introductions, not referrals. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to call it quits for this week's Business Lunatics. Hit follow, hit subscribe, join the loonies next week for more no fluff, no BS, and business madness. Thank you very much.